Dishonored came out with Dishonored 2, the sequel to Dishonored, was developed by Arcane Studios, and I want to say it came out probably late last year. And in an interview with VG247 at QuakeCon 2018, the lead designer, Ricardo Bear, said that, "I can't say definitively what might happen down the road. Anything could happen, but Dishonored is resting for now. As far as pure immersive sims go, I don't know if we're going to continue to make like Carbon Copy. This qualifies as an immersive sim, and it's the only thing we're ever going to make." So basically saying if they're not going to make a new Dishonored anytime soon, but if they do make something, they're going to make. If they make something, the next thing they're going to work on is probably going to be very similar to it. So didn't really want to talk about Dishonored so much as I wanted to talk about this idea of games kind of resting, game franchises taking breaks to kind of just give people a little bit of time to breathe and forget about the series for a little while. And I think Nintendo, for the most part, does a pretty good job of it.
Right.
I'm specifically thinking of Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
I'm a big...
Or like Mario as far as like the actual like good games go, I feel like.
Like the core Mario games?
Right. Not like the parties and like the...
Although I kind of think... I can't help but think of like Mario Party and the Mario Sports games and the Mario Kart as being Mario games. Like I don't...
Right.
personally like consider them part of it, but at the same time,
yeah. I mean, let's be honest,
they have Mario in the title.
They just made those games, and they were like, "What would make people buy these more
Mario.
if we put Mario in it?"
Well,
that's kind of
Shigeru Miyamoto did say that he wanted Mario to just be this kind of like this character that you could stick into any situation.
Yeah. But yeah, the Zelda games have been spaced out.
Yeah,
really
about
well.
5 years between the major ones,
right.
And then you might have smaller ones released here and there, usually on the handhelds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dishonorable is doing a very honorable thing. Or yeah, Dishonored is doing a very honorable thing.
Yes.
Did a second one end like it was gonna have a third one? Do you know?
I don't think so, and I don't think, and I haven't played either one of them, and I think the first one ended like where it was just kind of a self-contained story, and it's not really hinting at a any kind of sequel. A couple of franchises I would like to bring up that need to take a break. Anything that comes out year after year.
Madden.
Well, there is actually a complaint that, or a way that you could make Madden only come out like every few years, because just have DLC.
Or just update it, like have it like
exactly,
connect, and like update the rosters that way.
Right? How about and they do that to an extent.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So just keep doing it for a few years, but here's the reason why that won't happen, at least for the foreseeable future. Those games take about 10 months to develop, and they might throw in one extra feature. They change one thing, and they call it a day. The reason why they do that is because they sell.
Yeah.
And I used to work with people that they would get so hyped when the next Madden was like coming out.
I don't get it.
And they totally like understood why. I'm just like, why are you buying like practically the same game year after year? I know, Steven, I know. It's I shouldn't be doing this, but I can't help it. I always get so jazzed right when it's coming around. It's just like, and then they drop in value so fast because there's so many of them. They're shovelware. I'm sorry.
So it's like if you really want to get a Madden game, just get the like second newest one. And it'll be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Or just watch football instead of playing video games about it. Just watch football or play actual football. Sorry.
Yeah.
I never get to talk about football on here, so
I'm done. And there's other game series.
Assassin's Creed.
And
looking at you.
This like hurts me to say it because I do like the series, although I think I'm done.
Well, like, and the thing is,
at least for a while,
they all are really similar. And like another great thing about like giving it a rest is it gives you more time to think about more concepts for the game, for the next game, to make it better and different. So,
and I want to go ahead and bring up Call of Duty. Of course, is the one that everyone's going to think about because it's the annual release of the game. But Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty share similar development cycles. They basically have 3 or 4 different teams working on the games. So the games are in development for a period of years, like 3 or 4 years, but they rotate the teams on making those games. Call of Duty is it just again, they only do that because the games sell really well. Assassin's Creed, we've only had 2 years since 2007. We've only had 2 of those years not see a brand new Assassin's Creed game. Those were 2008 between Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2, and then I think 2017, we did not see a new Assassin's Creed game. No, 2016, I was right. They skipped it because Assassin's Creed Syndicate from 2015 didn't sell that well because Unity was just plagued with bugs and people didn't want to buy a new Assassin's Creed game if it was just going to have bugs in it like Unity did.
If you take more time, you won't have as many bugs.
Right.
Also, Assassin's Creed is a pretty story-driven game, right?
Yes, very story-driven.
So, like, the thing is, if you release less of it, I don't know, if you have such an excess of games with like the stories that they have, like, I feel like there's more like impact if you have less games, because like once the story goes on and on and on, it becomes like I don't know this like personally for that game, but like I just feel like it becomes less interesting. So like I feel like the narrative has more punch if it's in if it's like less in a like you know what I mean, like if there's less quantity.
Well, it's kind of like when you play when you play not just one Assassin's Creed game, but when you're playing them as a series of games, they start to feel very episodic. Like the first game does not feel that way, but after the first game, they basically the first game kind of has like this ambiguous ending. And I remember like a lot of people thinking like, oh well, we're probably not going to see a sequel to this game for a while, and everyone's going to be talking about the ending, and the ending is so open ended. It's like no, a couple of years later they came out with a sequel, and you got to see the furtherance of the story, but then it got into this rut where it was just like it was very episodic. Like maybe one major thing would happen in the overarching story, because the way those games work is you have a present day storyline which spans multiple games, and then you have just the storyline for that period of history. So, which is always the more interesting of the two, in case you're wondering. Like the present day story mode or storyline is not. It's not as good as the other one. And I've talked about it. There's problems with Assassin's Creed, like them only revealing key story details in DLC content, which is so wrong for Ubisoft to do. And the games are just huge. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like if you only played Assassin's Creed and maybe a couple of other games a year, that's it. You don't need any other games. So I'm behind. I'm catching up on Assassin's Creed. I'm still playing the PS3 era Assassin's Creed games. I'm trying to catch up. That is definitely that, and Call of Duty. They just need to take a break, and not just be like with Assassin's Creed. Oh well, it didn't sell that well, so maybe we need to take a break.
Wish people just stopped buying them so much, and then they'd get the message. But yeah, it's like you were talking about with Madden too. It's just people know, but they're like, but I'm still gonna do it. Like especially Call of Duty, man. I just don't get it. They're all the same. They're all exactly the same.
Right, and the people that complain about it, they still go out and they buy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to see more game franchises take a break, take 5 years, take longer if you need to, and then I think once you get by the 5-year mark, people start to become nostalgic for it. Be like, oh, it'd be really cool if they made a new Metroid game, if
Right,
they made a
right.
new Mega Man game.
Well, like, and it's really just comes down to quality versus quantity. Like,
Yes, it does.
you just shell them out year after year. That's why they're all really the same, because they take less time to really
Right.
think about what else to do with it. And so once you take more time to develop it, you end up with something that feels more fresh. And
Here's an example that I think, and this is crazy. So we talked a lot about loot boxes and DLC and how it's just crazy how these companies will just try to find any way to slip in microtransactions into games. You know what company doesn't do that, and they also don't make sequels to their games very often at all, but people keep buying their game? Rockstar, the makers of Grand Theft Auto games. Grand Theft Auto 5 came out
like
5 years ago. It's still in like the top selling charts. It's because they put out free content, free online multiplayer,
Yeah.
and they just keep supporting the game, and people keep buying the game.
Yeah.
And they do release
There's so much in it.
Yeah, and they have released the game multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not. I remember they released it at the end of the PS3 and 360 era on those consoles.
Yeah.
Then they released it on PC and like PS4 and Xbox One, and so that brought in like a whole new wave of people. But still, those versions are still selling really well. So that just goes to show you that you don't have to keep just, number one, putting in paid DLC or trying to get microtransactions or keep releasing a game every year to sell a game really well. You make a solid game and you support it with additional content, people will keep buying that game.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's like no one looks, even though I don't play Grand Theft Auto,
Yeah.
they're not my cup of tea.
Right.
Like, that is a great model to have.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just something, and I'm sure, a game developer, if you were sitting right here, you'd be like, well, that's Rockstar, and that's something that we simply can't duplicate. I had never seen anyone try to do it.
Yeah. Well, I would also say Grand Theft Auto is the way that game plays is it lends itself really well to that model too.
Mm-hmm.
Just the open worldness of it,
Yeah.
and the endless stuff that you can do. So I mean, you could probably do that with Assassin's Creed. I'm not sure how like a multiplayer would work, but I mean, Assassin's Creed is very open world, right? Isn't
Yes,
it?
yes, it is. Yeah. Another game that comes to mind is Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah. Skyrim is like, people are like still
That's
playing
another like
Skyrim.
5-6 year old game.
They made it for Switch, right? Yeah.
It just came out
Is it
for
really
Switch.
I thought Skyrim was even older than that.
It is. It's like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And like, but people keep buying it, so it's like, why should they even make an Elder Scrolls 6?
Yeah.
It's like why even bother?
Yeah.
Because your old game is still selling well, but they keep supporting it
Right.
and releasing it and all this stuff. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned from those companies and the other examples that we gave.